Hi everyone, it's Jennifer from Sparkle Splatter. In this video, I'm going to show you how to finger crochet. This is a really fun project to do with kids. It doesn't require any fancy tools. All we're going to be using is yarn and some scissors and our fingers. And if you have very young kids, they can do this project too, but you'll want help with the scissors part. Older kids, can snip the yarn themselves. For the yarn, I'm going to be using for this tutorial a yarn called Hometown USA by Lion Brand Yarn. And this is a nice, soft, kind of thicker yarn. And there are many different types of yarn out on the market. And bright colors, sparkly, anything that's really fun. And it's also kind of neat to let the kids kind of look through the aisle and maybe pick some yarn that really catches their eye as well, and that'll make the project even more fun for them. So let's get started. So when we finger crochet, like I mentioned before, our index finger is going to double up as our crochet hook. We're going to be using that to pull the yarn through the loops. So this is basically, if you've ever crocheted before, this is basically the exact same way you crochet, except for you're substituting your tool, your hook for a finger, okay? So what you're gonna do to begin is you wanna make a slip knot. So what you're gonna do is hold the yarn in your hand, let this tail come down in the front, and then you're gonna take the yarn and wrap it around your first two fingers to make a loop. So we have a little loop here. Then you're gonna bring the yarn behind that loop. So it makes kind of a circle with a line through it. Then with your finger, reach into the loop and pull up that strand. And that will make a loop. Then see how I'm tightening this with my other hand. And then you're going to put that loop on your finger. And don't make it too tight, but you don't want it to be so loose that it's falling off either. Okay? So then we're going to let this tail kind of hang out of the way a little bit. Just get that out of the way. And then this is the yarn that's attached to our yarn ball over here. So we're going to be holding that strand. Be careful not to use the tail by accident. Okay, so what we're going to do, whenever you start a finger crochet project, you'll want to do a chain. So all of our projects will begin with a chain. Okay, so how to do that is you're going to just hold the yarn in your left hand, and everybody holds yarn differently. You can just hold it like this. You can wrap it around all fancy if you want to with your fingers. But what you're going to do is take the yarn and we're going to wrap it around our finger like that. And then we're going to take our finger and we're going to pull that strand through the loop that's already on our finger. And that's going to make a new loop. Okay, so you can see this loop here. This is our first chain. Okay, so we have a chain. So let's do that again. Wrap the yarn around your finger like that and pull it through the loop. We now have two chains. Okay, so we're going to make a few more of these, and then I'm going to show you how to make your first row. Okay. So wrap the yarn around your finger and bring it through the loop, just like that. Wrap the yarn around your finger and bring it through the loop. We're just going to make a kind of a string of chains here. Just make a strand to begin. Wrap the yarn around your finger and bring it through the loop. Wrap the yarn around your finger and bring it through the loop. So we have several chains now. I'm going to get a little bit more yarn. Because our finger acts like a large hook, you're going to move through your yarn pretty quickly. Okay, so you can kind of straighten everything up. Wrap the yarn around your finger and bring it through the loop. So you can just keep doing that until you get your chain as long as you like it to be. Now if you're starting with an easy project like a scarf, just make the chain, the starting chain, as wide as you want your scarf to be, because this is actually going to be the bottom of our scarf and we're going to be working upward. Or blanket, or if you want to make a fun first project for kids, it would be maybe a doll blanket or something like that. So once you get your chain as long as you'd like it to be, then we're ready to move on to the first row. So to begin row 1, we're going to work in the second chain from our finger. Now when you're crocheting, the loop on your finger never counts. So we're going to count, you can see the chains make loops, kind of like chain link. Okay, so we're going to count 1 and 2. So in this chain right here, we're going to insert our finger right into the center of that chain, just like that. Wrap the yarn around your finger, bring up a loop, just like we did before. But now you'll have 2 loops on your finger. Wrap the yarn around your finger again and bring it through both loops. We've just made what's called a single crochet stitch. Super easy, and the more you make these stitches, the easier it will become. And I wouldn't worry too much about how fast you can go. I would just worry about learning the stitch and mastering the stitch, and the speed will come. Once you get into your project, you'll realize how quickly your fingers are moving. Okay, so then let's do our next stitch. So in this next chain that we come to, insert your finger right into the middle of the chain, wrap the yarn around your finger, and bring up a loop. You have 2 loops on your finger. Wrap the yarn around your finger again and bring it through both loops, just like that. Okay, we're going to do this all the way across. So in the very next chain, insert your finger into that chain, right into the middle, wrap the yarn around your finger and pull it through. We have 2 loops on our finger, so we're going to wrap the yarn around our finger again and pull it through both loops, just like that. Next chain, insert your finger into the chain, wrap the yarn around your finger, bring up a loop. 2 loops are on our finger, wrap the yarn around our finger again, bring it through both loops. So we've made a couple stitches. Let's see what we have. It's getting a little bit taller. Each row it'll get taller and taller and taller. And again, this is a scarf, makes a great first project. So insert your finger into the next chain, wrap the yarn around your finger and bring up a loop. 2 loops are on our hook, or our finger slash hook. Wrap the yarn around your finger again, bring it through both loops. There we go, that one got stuck a little, that's okay. Insert your finger into the chain, wrap the yarn around your finger and bring up a loop. 2 loops are on our finger, wrap the yarn around your finger again, bring it through both loops. And then the last chain, we'll just do the same exact thing. Insert your finger into the chain, wrap the yarn around your finger, bring up a loop. 2 loops are on your finger, wrap the yarn around your finger again and bring it through both loops. We've now completed our first row. So we've done our starting chain and then we've done row 1. Now there's a lot of fancy crochet stitches. We've done the single crochet. There's other ones, the double crochet, the treble crochet, the double treble crochet, and those are a lot taller. We're just sticking to the basic single crochet for this. So what we're going to do is move on to row 2. So did you notice that I took my finger out? When you need to set your project down and come back, it's really hard to complete a project, especially a large project, in a short sitting. If you have lots of time, like you're watching a movie or something, you can maybe get a lot done or even a whole scarf done if you want to. But what I did was I pulled my loop out a little bit to make my loop a little bit bigger, and then you can just kind of set it down. If you want to, if you're worried about this loop pulling out, you can put a little safety pin or a little clip in there or something to keep that loop from pulling out if you need to set it down. But if you're ready to work the next row, what we're going to do to move from row to row, we're going to make a chain. So we have 1 loop on our finger from where we left off. Wrap the yarn around your finger, bring it through the loop. So we just made a chain. Then you're going to flip your work over. Now let's look at this row for a minute. At the top of our row, we have loops. These are the stitches that we'll be working into. So each loop at the top, if we turn it, it looks kind of like a V going down our work, and it has 2 of these yarn strands. So before we were inserting our finger into the chain, now we're going to be inserting our finger into the stitch. So insert your finger into that stitch, that first loop you come to. So if you turn your finger to the side, see how there's 2 strands of yarn on that, okay? So we have our first loop, then we've inserted our finger into the stitch. So you're going to wrap the yarn around your finger and bring it through, back through. We'll have 2 loops on our hook, on our finger, excuse me. Wrap the yarn around your finger, bring it through both loops, just like that. Let's do that again. Insert your finger into that next stitch, wrap the yarn around your finger, bring up a loop. Wrap the yarn around your finger again, bring it through both loops. Just like that. Insert your finger into the stitch, next stitch, wrap the yarn around your finger, bring up a loop. 2 loops are on our finger. This is pretty much the exact same thing we did in the previous row, except we're just inserting our finger into a stitch instead of a chain. So wrap the yarn around your finger again, bring it through both loops. 1 loop is left on our finger. Insert your finger into that next stitch, wrap the yarn around your finger, bring up a loop. You have 2 loops on your finger, wrap the yarn around your finger and bring it through both loops. Insert your finger into the next stitch, wrap the yarn around your finger, bring up a loop. Wrap the yarn around your finger again, bring it through both loops. I'm going to get a little bit more yarn here off of our yarn ball. So we're coming up to the end. Insert your finger into that stitch, wrap the yarn around your finger, bring up a loop. 2 loops on our finger. Wrap the yarn around your finger again, bring it through both loops. And then at the end we have what's called the turning chain. That's where we did a chain 1 and we turned our work. So it might look a little bit different than the other stitches, but it is there. You might have to see how it was kind of smushed along the bottom. You might have to kind of pick it up a little bit. So insert your finger into that last loop there on your row. Wrap the yarn around your finger, bring up a loop. 2 loops on our finger, wrap the yarn around your finger again, bring it through both loops. Our second row is complete. Now again, if you need to set this down, just pull your loop out a little bit. You can put a little clip on there or something like that, a safety pin. Just be careful with safety pins with young kids because they are sharp. But our second row is complete. So to keep going, if you want to make a scarf or a doll blanket or something like that, you can just keep going, repeating the same row we did, working into the stitches over and over and over until it's as big as you'd like it to be. Now, when you're all finished and your finger crochet piece is as long as you'd like it to be and as big as you'd like it to be, what you're going to do is we still have this loop here, so we have to figure out what to do with that loop. So just take your scissors, and again, young kids might need help with this part, but just snip that. So we now have a tail. So what we're going to do is this loop here, we're just going to put that tail right into this loop. Just like that. And then just pull it to tighten. You might need to like kind of push it down a little bit. Just like that. So we've taken care of our loop, but we still have these tails hanging down. So what we're going to do is we're going to weave those in to our work. Now if you have lots of colors, you'll want to keep each color in its own section. So we're going to take this tail and we're just going to kind of sew with our fingers. So we're going to go in and out all the way across. Actually, you don't have to go all the way across, just a few inches in is sufficient. So go in and out, we're just sewing with our fingers, okay? Now, sometimes these ends can kind of pop out, so what I like to do is once we have our tail and we've come across here, I like to take the tail and just go in the other direction. It's not completely foolproof, but it does help keep that end from popping out, okay? So we went in one direction, we came in the other direction, And then once you get it all woven in, you're going to take your scissors, just snip that tail right off, and then just give it a little tug and that little tail will disappear. So then you'll do the same for this other tail, and then your project is complete. So that's how you finger crochet. I hope you enjoyed this video, and to get all the latest Sparkle and Splatter video updates, click on the subscribe button, and thanks again.